The images and stories coming out of Ukraine have invoked a variety of reactions, from heart-wrenching to full outrage. And while all that many can do is sit and stare at the destruction, there are others who have tapped into their own knowledge and experience to go do something, including one Kenora resident who spent several weeks in the war-torn nation, putting his medical skills on the front lines of the conflict. Adam Riley has more.
I can't sit here on the sidelines knowing that, civilians and the general population are suffering.
A combat veteran of both Afghanistan and Iraq and a seasoned member of Orange, 35-year-old Jordan Searle says within minutes of watching the opening assault on Ukraine, he was receiving texts from fellow veterans suggesting they do something about it. And while initially they were going to fight, Searle suggested an alternative, using some of their civilian life skill sets, as there were already thousands of others capable of taking up arms.
But they don't necessarily have all the specialist resources or even the logistical support to carry on the rest. So, within sort of 72 hours, we had a plan of bringing 4 ambulances fully stocked with emergency supplies and the ability to erect a field hospital.
Initially, the plan was to bring the equipment to the Polish-Ukrainian border, but Russian forces killed several of the group's contacts, meaning nobody could come to collect the ambulances. And after some discussion, the group continued into the country, making their way as far as Kyiv, which Searle says was a surreal experience, noting nothing could have prepared him for what he saw.
When we crossed the main bridge across the river that separates the two parts of Kyiv city, I see a city skyline on fire. There are jets dogfighting above us. There's tracer rounds going into the sky.
Once settled, Searle and company built a 5-bed trauma unit and with other local medical experts provided the level of care you might expect at Thunder Bay Regional under warlike conditions, and spent several weeks assisting both defenders and civilians alike. Later on, he was one of the first to witness the aftermath of the horrors in both Irpin and Bucha.
A lot of the local population had zero access to medical care in the time that they were occupied. So, we were dealt with multiple people coming forward, not just with sort of horrendous traumatic injuries, but also primary healthcare problems, chronic conditions and stuff.
After spending 7 weeks in country, Searle decided to leave and return to the Polish border with a group of refugees, where he did what he could to help a 5-year-old boy who had lost his entire family.
You look at his face and you knew that he understood that, mum and dad aren't coming back. He sort of played with me for a little bit, and I sat him on my shoulders, and we helped this lady carry what stuff that they had back across the border. And bear in mind, these people had nothing.
Now back in Canada, Searle says he's working on a plan to bring another group of specialized ambulances to Ukraine and intends to make the delivery again himself. Adam Riley, TBT News.
The leadership of Anishinaabe Aski Nation came together this week for the Chiefs Spring Assembly. Several representatives from many of the 49 NAN communities were here in Thunder Bay, while some opted to join virtually for what is NAN's first in-person gathering since the onset of the pandemic. Lee Noonan reports.
Grand Chief Derek Fox welcomed representatives from NAN's 49 member nations, some joining virtually, as well as special guests including AFN National Chief Roseanne Archibald and Regional Chief Glenn Hare, and infectious disease specialist Dr. Isaac Bogosh, who is being thanked for his service to NAN throughout the pandemic. Indeed, with testing and masking procedures in place, Fox says it's great to see people again, but that COVID is still a major concern.
We don't want to be the cause of someone causing an outbreak in one of our communities, and safety is our #1 priority. But other than saying that, it's great to see the people here. It's great to have that face-to-face. I think we're very, very tired of the Zoom meetings, the virtual meetings, doing meetings in our PJs. We're very happy to be here.
Dr. Bogosh echoes Fox's statement that the pandemic is not over, saying the virus will continue to come with new variants and new waves. He praises NAN leaders for their handling of the pandemic, particularly for strong communication, creating trust, and getting people vaccinated.
If we take a step back and look at how local Indigenous leadership served their communities, I mean, from the outside looking in, it was just astounding. There was tremendous leadership from NAN and from chiefs and community leaders all over the province, and that resulted in so many lives being saved.
COVID is far from the only topic on the agenda, with child welfare, residential schools, and policing also featuring in this morning's speeches. Fox says the goal of the assembly is to provide transparency, updating chiefs on NAN's work and getting their direction on several files. For him, climate change is top of mind with the evacuation of Sheshawan and the threat posed by flooding and forest fires.
How do the NAN chiefs, how does Anishinaabe Nation, with this vast land and territory, contribute to that fight, to awareness of climate change and ensuring that there's a future for our children?
Lee Noonan, TBT News.
And that wraps up Northwest Newsweek. Thank you so much for joining us.